Thousands of venomous snakes are pouring into the streets, coiling around windows, and hiding beneath people's beds. A historic storm has struck Guangxi, China, triggering a major ecological disaster, the collapse of a massive snake farming system. The government's emergency announcement stated that 900 snakes had escaped, but when rescue teams entered the flooded disaster zone, they immediately realized the truth was far worse. Those 900 snakes were only a tiny fraction of the incident. Tens of thousands of snakes had escaped from their enclosures. A victim lost their life because anti-venom could not be administered, while entire communities were cut off by floodwaters. A state of emergency was declared. Why would such a massive facility breeding dangerous animals exist in the middle of a densely populated residential area? What is the truth behind these underground business operations? And the most haunting question of all after the floodwaters receded: where are those tens of thousands of scattered snakes hiding now? Let's uncover the answers right now. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more of the world's most shocking events. Guangxi is known for its majestic limestone mountains and fragrant jasmine fields. But beneath that picturesque beauty lies a hidden ecological threat. When the super typhoon struck, an enormous volume of rain caused the network of hundreds of rivers across Guangxi to overflow. The floodwaters rose so quickly that people barely had time to evacuate, let alone their livestock. In Yunbiao town, farms built with sturdy brick walls and corrugated metal roofs were ripped apart by the raging flood within moments. And just like that, the enclosures holding tens of thousands of cobras, banded kraits, and rat snakes were completely destroyed. Snakes possess an incredibly strong survival instinct. When confronted with rising floodwaters, they immediately swim in search of the highest, driest, and warmest places they can find. Unfortunately, in a flooded area, the highest, driest, and warmest place is people's homes. Videos recorded by local residents on their mobile phones at the time sent shockwaves across social media worldwide. Snakes were seen coiled around utility poles. Snakes slithered into wardrobes. Snakes curled up inside rice cookers. In one chilling incident, as a farmer opened a window to call for help, a large cobra launched itself from a tree branch straight into the house. The situation became so chaotic that hospitals across the region immediately raised their highest level of alert. Stocks of anti-venom, which were normally kept only in limited quantities, were completely exhausted within hours. The real tragedy unfolded when a woman was bitten by a snake inside her own home. She could have survived if she had received anti-venom in time, but the raging floodwaters had turned the roads into rivers. An ambulance could not reach her, and she died as her family watched in despair. Professional snake-catching teams, along with volunteer groups, were mobilized to full capacity. They used long tongs, poles, and in some cases even their bare hands. But they soon realized they were facing an impossible mission. The flood had not destroyed just one farm. It had swept through dozens of large and small animal breeding facilities, releasing tens of thousands of wild animals into the streets. From venomous snakes to ostriches, wild boars, and even carnivores from privately owned zoos. Species that normally occupied completely different levels of the food chain were suddenly carried together by the same torrent of floodwater. In China, especially in southern regions such as Guangxi, snakes are not merely frightening reptiles. They are an enormous source of economic profit. As of the year 2020, Guangxi was the largest snake farming center on the planet. The region had around 14,000 farms, with a total population of nearly 20 million snakes. Just imagine that number, 20 million snakes. If they were lined up from head to tail, they could wrap around the earth. Why are people willing to accept life-threatening risks to live alongside these animals? The answer is money. A great deal of money. The snake farming industry here is valued at as much as $7 billion United States dollars. In the West, snakes are often killed or avoided. But in Eastern medicine, every part of a snake is considered a valuable ingredient. The most valuable of all is snake venom. Venom is highly sought after by biomedical scientists to produce anti-venom, develop painkillers, treat cardiovascular diseases, and even serve as an ingredient in extremely expensive anti-aging cosmetics sold in Europe and the United States. On the pharmaceutical raw material market, 1 gram of high-quality dried snake venom can cost nearly $1,000. It has been called a liquid as precious as gold. Harvesting this liquid is an extremely dangerous process. Snake venom extractors do not wear protective armor. Using only their bare hands, they grab the heads of angrily hissing cobras, force their mouths open, and press their fangs through a membrane stretched across the lid of a glass jar. One tiny mistake, 1/1000th of a second of lost concentration. The fangs slip and sink into a finger, and the worker's life is immediately in danger. Yet a common saying here goes: farming 10 acres of rice is not as profitable as raising 1 enclosure of snakes. The enormous income, which can reach billions of Vietnamese dong each year, completely overshadows the fear. However, Guangxi is still not the region with the largest scale of production. The flood-related snake escape in Guangxi represents only a small part of this entire industry. Do a few flooded farms already make you shudder? Then imagine a tiny village where the human population is only 1,000, but the snake population reaches 3 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. Let us travel north to Zhejiang province and witness a place where danger is part of everyday life. Hidden deep within Zhejiang province lies the village of Jia Can. Viewed from a drone, it appears to be a beautiful rural settlement with ancient grey-tiled roofs and lush green trees, wrapped in an almost unnatural silence. But if you walk along the village roads, you will notice a distinctive, intensely fishy smell rising from the ventilation holes. If you enter any house, behind the oak door, you will not find a living room, but wooden trays stacked all the way to the ceiling. Inside each tray, hundreds of snakes are coiled around one another. Within an area of less than 1 square kilometer, 1,000 residents of Jia can live alongside 3 million snakes. That is a ratio of 1 person facing 3,000 snakes. This tiny village supplies as much as 30% of all snakes produced in China and helps the country dominate the global market. Unlike the chaos in Guangxi when the storm struck, the people of Jia Can raise snakes in a systematic, cold, and precise manner, like an industrial production line. In the 1980s, a farmer named Yang Hongchang discovered this potential. Starting with only a few dozen snakes caught in the fields, he successfully bred them and transformed the entire village into a community of millionaires. But the price of this prosperity is an extremely thin line between life and death. In Jia Can, venomous snakes escaping from their enclosures and crawling across household courtyards is something that happens regularly. Children here learn how to identify venomous snakes before they learn the alphabet. They know never to reach into dark corners or piles of dry firewood. Almost every family has someone who has been bitten by a snake. They keep anti-venom and medicinal ointment in the refrigerator beside their food. However, despite the strictest safety measures, sometimes the dead snakes themselves become the most unexpected source of danger. Besides extracting venom and selling snake meat, one of the most profitable products in this industry is snake wine. Premium bottles can sell for anywhere from several thousand to tens of thousands of United States dollars. The process of making snake wine appears simple, but it is extremely brutal. A live venomous snake is captured whole, dropped into a glass jar, completely submerged in high-proof rice liquor, and sealed tightly. The snake struggles, releases all of its venom, and eventually dies inside the jar. However, nature always finds unexpected ways to fight back. In the year 2013, in Heilongjiang province, a woman named Liu bought a highly venomous pit viper to soak in liquor as a treatment for rheumatism. The snake remained completely submerged in alcohol for 3 full months. One day, Mrs. Liu opened the jar to add more liquor. The moment the lid was lifted, a rush of air entered. The eyes of the snake inside suddenly opened wide. It shot out like a spring, clamped onto Mrs. Liu's hand, and injected venom. Fortunately, she was rushed to emergency care in time, and survived. This was not the only accident. In the year 2001, in Guangxi, a man died after being bitten on the neck by a cobra that had been soaked in liquor for 1 year and suddenly came back to life. In the year 2009, in Hubei, a similar incident occurred after the snake had been soaked for 2 months. How can a living creature hold its breath in alcohol for months? Biologists and reptile experts have offered an explanation so astonishing that it leaves nearly everyone speechless. It is a real biological phenomenon known as brumation, which is the reptile form of hibernation. When a snake is placed in a harsh environment with little oxygen and changing temperatures, and the jar is not sealed completely airtight, the snake may immediately suspend nearly all of its metabolic functions. Its heartbeat drops to almost zero. It does not need food, it does not need water, and its oxygen consumption becomes unbelievably low. It enters a temporary state of suspended life. A jar lid that is not completely sealed can create a biologically stagnant environment. The snake automatically lowers its metabolic rate to remain in a deep dormant state for an extended period. The moment even a small amount of oxygen enters, its nervous system can suddenly reactivate. Its natural defensive reflex may then produce a bite carrying an extremely concentrated dose of venom. This phenomenon is a striking demonstration of biology. Living creatures possess remarkable survival mechanisms that allow them to adapt to even the harshest environments. In Guangxi, once the floodwaters receded, life appeared to return to normal. Jasmine flowers once again bloomed along the roadsides, filling the air with their fragrance. Property damage was compensated, and animal enclosures were rebuilt stronger and higher than before. Authorities also tightened numerous new regulations, requiring wildlife breeding facilities to prepare disaster response plans for extreme natural events. Yet there is one fact that few people are willing to say openly in the news. In reality, rescue teams recovered only a very small percentage of the escaped animals. Thousands of others, especially breeding females, had already migrated into the extensive limestone cave systems surrounding the region. These snakes possess a remarkable ability to adapt to natural environments. Within a relatively short period, they could establish a self-sustaining wild population, living alongside densely populated human communities. Even today, local authorities continue to issue quiet warnings. Avoid walking through dense vegetation near riverbanks. Be especially cautious when going outside at night, and always carry a walking stick when traveling through rural areas. But nature needs only a single storm, a single flood, or a tiny gap beneath the lid of a glass jar to prove otherwise. In the end, the hunter can easily become the prey. By examining these ecological facts, we recognize a deeply concerning systemic risk. This region remains an enormously valuable center for the global animal farming industry, but that economic success comes with one of the highest levels of biosafety risk. Humanity has built economic models based on controlling venomous species, yet has failed to fully account for one crucial factor: the increasingly unpredictable nature of extreme weather events. As climate change continues to increase the frequency of super typhoons and flash floods, even the strongest breeding facilities may no longer guarantee complete safety. Nature always tends to restore its own balance, effortlessly overcoming barriers created by humans. As a result, surrounding communities must cope not only with extreme weather, but also with the constant pressure of living alongside an environment filled with diverse biological hazards. Here, the boundary between human settlements and wild ecosystems has become increasingly intertwined. Ordinary outdoor activities now demand an unusually high level of vigilance. Placing too much confidence in humanity's ability to control wild animals has led to an inevitable consequence. Communities are forced to remain constantly alert for biological threats that may emerge within their own living space. So, if you ever have the opportunity to explore the breathtaking limestone ecosystems of this region, take time not only to admire the scenery, but also to watch every step you take. Beneath the layers of natural vegetation, reptiles that once belonged to breeding facilities may have fully integrated into the wild food chain, and may already be silently watching your every move.